Hi, my name is Dixon Jones and I'm going to be talking to you today about links in context. I'm global, amongst other things, global brand ambassador at Majestic, which is one of the largest search engines in the world in terms of understanding backlinks into web pages. We crawl the internet and then invert that information to understand who links to what pages. And the reason I'm going to be talking about links in context is that I think that it's a very, very important and under-discussed element of link building. And getting links out of context can be pretty bad. But actually, links themselves can be pretty bad. And so I want to start the whole presentation with a health warning. There are pages on Google's website. This is from Google's website in the support forums talking about link schemes. And saying quite clearly any links intended to manipulate PageRank or a site's ranking in Google search results may be considered part of a link scheme and in violation of Google's webmaster guidelines. Now, this includes any behavior that manipulates links to your site or outgoing links from your site. So, starting with a health warning, Google doesn't like that people try and manipulate links. On the other hand, Google also doesn't like people manipulating Google search results full stop. So by that definition, search engine optimization is something that Google doesn't like because they would like to think that they can do it all by themselves. With that health warning aside, Google was founded on links, and this is why SEOs have continually looked at links as one of the major factors around search engine optimization. And it was built on links because in the beginning there was just PageRank. The PageRank algorithm has been talked about a lot. I have a very, very comprehensive talk on how PageRank works, and if you'd like it, please, email me with the word PageRank in the title, and I'll get a copy of that presentation and a video to you as well. But the interesting thing about PageRank is that it scored the importance of any page, but entirely without context. So if you imagine, take a person in the world, Bill Gates. Bill Gates may be seen as influential. If he was a web page, he would be influential, but he'd be influential about operating systems and possibly about pandemics these days. He wouldn't be influential when it comes to predicting the next number one hit musical or song or film, for example. So everything is only as important as the context in which it's in. That includes links. And it's also a reason why PageRank was only just the start of what Google had to do when it started this quest of organizing the world's information. PageRank comes without context, and it was a problem, because actually there is a lot more information in a link than just a vote. When you click on a link, before you click on that link, as a human being, you've got some idea of the authority of the web page that you're going to be linking through to, for example. So you know before you click on it that you're going to be linking through to either the BBC or to a small website that you've never heard of. You've got some idea of the topic because you know what you're reading about on this page, and presumably they've given you some kind of idea of where you're going to go when you're going to click. So you've got an idea of that topic. You've got some idea of the meaning, of the context in which you're clicking on that link. You've got some idea of influence, power, authority. All these kind of words are descriptors that describe context. So if you as a human being can understand these things before you click on a link, then Google would like to understand that too. So this presentation is about some of the algorithms and the context, some of the algorithms that a search engine can use to find proxies for this sort of innate knowledge that human beings have. Now, the first thing is not really link related, but I want to put it in there anyway, just to say user profiling is something that Google does a lot of. So Google has a pretty good idea about you as a human being, or likes to have a good idea about you as a human being before it presents any results to you, because it can present more refined and accurate results to you. And user profiling obviously doesn't have any link relations to links. but I'll put it in there. However, the other 4 things I do want to talk about, and they are the reasonable surfer patent that Google has that may affect why one link is worth more than another on exactly the same page. Topical PageRank, which is the concept that some links are more important in one topic and less important in another topic. Chunking, which is the idea of breaking down content into much smaller units rather than just websites or web pages. And then the 4th one is the more modern concepts of natural language processing or natural language understanding and their development of entity databases. So, the first one of these is reasonable surfer. I asked myself that if reasonable surfer patent is all about understanding why one link on a web page may be more valuable than another on a link page, and I asked myself than on a page. Then I asked myself, how might a computer change the value of an outbound link on a page? What kind of things might it try and measure to be able to try and balance the weight to say, right, these links are worth more than these links on this page? And one of the things you might start thinking is that a search engine might look at behavioral systems like click tracking. So it might say, right, I'm going to use whether somebody clicks on that link as a proxy for whether it's a better link than another link on the page. And the interesting thing is that works at any individual level, but it doesn't work in building an algorithm. It might be enough to create some generic rules for training algorithms, but I don't think it's the answer. And the reason is that web pages are all very, very different. So algorithms tend to learn from training sets of data. And so you might start with saying, okay, I've looked at this web page, and this web page tells me that people are much more likely to click on the image than they are on the text below the image. But on another web page, that might be totally incorrect. And the training data is effectively garbage in, garbage out. So click data is very, very variable. It doesn't always have a predictable pattern, and that makes it hard to scale predictions. Much more stable, actually, is the DOM. So the DOM is the HTML that is seen by the web browser after it's kind of done all the JavaScript and stuff, and so it's kind of like the refined HTML, if you like, of a web page. And the interesting thing about the DOM HTML is that it's all made up in blocks. So text is made up, a paragraph of text is in a P tag, and then that's usually surrounded by a few other P tags above and below, and then a div, and then an H1 or H2 or H3, and there is a level and an order and a hierarchy to the way in which HTML is created, and that becomes a much more standard way of a search engine looking at what links might be more important than others. So, for example, they may be able to much easier see. They may be able to see much more easily from the DOM that links above the fold or links that are in the mobile view are much more likely to be clicked on than links that are not available in the mobile view, for example. That might be a very logical thing that an algorithm can train upon. Links that are in the body of a text may be much more important than ones that are in the navigation, for example. So there are a lot of rules within there that might suggest that you should have a link above the page and in the body of the text, for example. The second idea in which context becomes important is the idea of topical PageRank. The topical PageRank is something that Google doesn't talk about half as much as when they talked about the PageRank originally. They kept that a little bit under the hood, but nevertheless, it is very much a thing. And this is how we think it works, and this is how we try to emulate it. It's great, but it's still giving context on a page level, but not on a more granular level than pages. But let's have a look at how PageRank works in a sort of a marketing person's kind of imagination. So I like to use the analogy of rock pools. And if you wanted to work out how powerful a link was, if you imagine the sea as the web page that's got the link, and the tide comes up, then the first rock pool will get lots and lots of water. The second rock pool will get less water. And then further up the beach, you get much less influence from that tide than if you were closer to the tidal waters, for example. Now imagine that this tidal water was in a river, and then as the tide went out, fresh water came in instead of salt water, and then the rock pools started to fill up with more fresh water than salt water. Then is this rock pool a freshwater rock pool or a saltwater rock pool? And it depends on which of the forces has the more influence, the freshwater or the seawater, and that depends on the tide, and it depends on the flow and the rain on the upriver and all sorts of other bits and pieces. But you can get an idea of how a topic page may change based on topical PageRank if you understand the idea that PageRank is an iterative idea, and if you can say that the source of a web page is about a particular topic, then the links that come out of it are also then going to influence what the topic is of the page that they link to. So if you've got a page over here that's about news, and you've got a bunch of web pages over here that are arts and society, and you've got a bunch of pages over here on Stanford's website that are about reference, then you've got a bunch of other web pages over here that are also about reference, then this page on the MIT website, only a bunch of other pages about spam, then you can draw some inference that this page over on MIT's website is probably more likely to be about reference than it is about news or society or spammy kind of information that doesn't carry any weight whatsoever. So this is the idea of topical PageRank, and the idea that you really want to have links from content that is semantically close to the content that you want to highlight, if you want Google to reward you for it. And so that's something that Majestic came out with years ago, the concept of measuring topical PageRank and giving a value, a weighting to every single web page based on the kinds of topics of the pages that are linking into those web pages. I think topical PageRank really started to generate this idea of context within link building. Getting links from places that are of the same topic are powerful. They're much more relevant for users, and therefore they're much more relevant for machine learning algorithms. That, combined with the concept of chunking, becomes even more powerful. Chunking is research that was done a long time ago, actually 20 years or more ago, and it said that if you're going to look at content, try and analyze content of a web page or a website or a book or encyclopedia or whatever, then it's much better to break that page or that content into sections or chunks than it is to try and find meaning for the whole of the website in one go, or web page in one go. And I think this is one of the reasons why I kind of get so het up about trying to analyze and say this is a good website, so therefore it's good to get a link from it. It's, better at a web page, but it's even better at the granular paragraph, sentence, or section of a web page. So if you break the content down into sections and analyze each section, then of course ultimately you go all the way, you break down into words, and that's too much. But there is a point in between analyzing all the words, which is just a dictionary, and analyzing the whole page, which is too generic. And so creating chunks and analyzing in chunks is much better for understanding the meaning of web content. And so you really would like to get your links from relevant content within the page of a website. And that's also something that we've finally been able to crack and measure. So what we're able to do now is to say, right, okay, for every web page on the internet, let's have a look at this page in 2.5 percentile groups, and have a look at all the links coming into each page, coming out of each page at different points in a site. So if we have a look at a Wikipedia article on the left-hand side here, and it's broken down into 40 different sections, then Wikipedia is very, very strong on internal linking. So the blue lines are internal links. So as you can see, as you go down, Wikipedia links a lot to other Wikipedia articles to give reference, to make it very, very tight in its understanding. And there are external links. Most of those are at the bottom. If you then have a look at something like PayPal's privacy policy, very, very few external links. It's probably they're the ones that they've legally got to link to, and most of the links are internal, but not that many of them. BBC News article, very interesting there, because there are links at the top of the page and links at the bottom of the page. Very few external links whatsoever, but none in the body of the text. Now, I would say a link from the BBC is a very, very valuable thing. But interestingly, they don't link out in the body text, which is, according to our understanding of the reasonable surfer algorithm, the best place to have a link. So if BBC's journalists are not linking out, then they're not framing their stories with context and reference, which actually is bad for the BBC. And ultimately is bad for the internet as well. I suspect that the BBC are not doing themselves any favours by not linking out. And then on the other extreme, the Drudge Report is apparently, it would seem, a list of links to other websites. So by chunking, we can immediately get some context. So we can sit there and say, right, this is a vlog on Search Engine Roundtable, which is, Barry Schwartz's website, and here's a link to Dixon Jones, but he's not just linking. I'm not getting a link from his website. I'm getting a link from a sentence that says Dixon Jones has been doing SEO since 1998. You may know him from his work at majestic.com. So now we're analyzing the link very much within context of a very small section of a big web page. And that gives us a lot more granularity. And if a search engine can do that, it's going to get much more context in understanding a link. So again, we're using boxes here. So the link is within a sentence, which is within a section, which is within a section of the web page. And then finally we get to the concept of NLP, natural language processing, or as Google uses the phrase, natural language understanding. And that's the idea that they're feeding now concepts into a central knowledge base. The reason they do that is that Google can then connect concepts with many different algorithms. So BERT and BERTie seem to be the publicly spoken about ones. But ultimately, Google is no longer trying to just send people to your websites. It's trying to take the information from your websites, build its own database of meaning and information so that it can then respond to its users more accurately, in more depth and quicker than sending people all through to websites. That's very, very important, because it means that if you are not writing about the right kind of information, that information is not then taken into the knowledge graph. But the problem with this is that if these blue things on the top here are all the pages on the internet, Google is now building this single point of truth. And that single point of truth is a list of topics and things and entities, not just pages, but concepts and ideas. It's very useful because it can then pass information back to the original source. It can cite the original source of all that information, but it can also bring in information from other sources, like the lyrics of songs, or pictures of people, or manual data, or internal data. And I think that the challenge for SEOs then is not so much getting the information into the knowledge graph, but it's going to be getting your customer back out. And if you're out of context, you're not going to succeed in that at all. So bringing this all back to your site, I would like you to go and find links from websites that are on content that's topically relevant to the subject that you're writing about. If you don't do that, then you're going to dilute your authority within your own field of specialism. Also, the higher that you are on the page, and whether you're in the main body text, the better. So you really ideally want to be in the first paragraph or two of the meaningful content on the page, and surrounded by content and context. Thirdly, authority is not the same thing as popularity. Authority itself is a concept, and it's contextual. If you want to read some further reading, I've put in my source things for these kind of ideas: PageRank, Reasonable Surfer, Topical PageRank and Chunking, and NLP. Thanks very much. I'm now going to pass you over to Alina for her talk on